बेल हूँ। मैं एक फुलब्राइट नेहरू स्कॉलर हूँ। मैं कोलंबिया यूनिवर्सिटी न्यूयॉर्क से आई और मैं मालका बाईचांदा और लुत्फुनीस इम्तियाज़ के बारे में रिसर्च कर रही हूँ।
अब मेरी तरफ
मेरा दिलचस्पी उसमें शुरू हुआ जब मैं यूनिवर्सिटी में अंडर ग्रेजुएट थी। मैं हिंदी और उर्दू दोनों सीख रही थी और मेरे उस्ताद यूनिवर्सिटी में उर्दू शायरी की दिलचस्पी था और इसलिए मैं शायरी भी पढ़ने शुरू किया।
जी बहैसियत एक अमेरिकन आप क्या समझती हैं कि आपको जो है उर्दू में कौन सी चीज़ खास लगी? क्या 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 उर्दू में क्या खासियत है, क्या स्पेशलिटी है जो आपको उर्दू की तरफ जो है अट्रैक्ट की, आपको उस तरफ लाके की?
मतलब कि मैं क्यों मुझको उर्दू क्यों दिलचस्प था? ऐसा लगता है कि ये मुश्किल समझाना है। मैं इसका लिटरेचर, इसका अदाब, इसका शायरी बहुत पसंद है और इसलिए मैं रहते थे।
Affairs officer for the U.S. Consulate here in Hyderabad. So thank you very much first of all for coming here today. So I hope you had time to look around at this exhibition. It's a very fascinating exhibition with so many new information that we did not have before on the friendship that existed between India and the United States for about at least 2 centuries before India's independence. For example, in the picture that we have here behind us, you see American citizens, regular citizens, demonstrating in front of the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. in 1943, and they are demonstrating to push for India's independence, and they are comparing that time to 1776 when America got its independence from the same masters, from the British. So we have another, for example, interesting pictures over there, which is the first time the Indian flag was raised at the United Nations in New York. We have on the business side, for example, the pictures and the story of Mr. Tudor, who was one of the first businessmen working with India. And what he was doing, he was importing ice that he would cut from fresh ponds and rivers during the winter in Massachusetts. And he would put that on board ships and ship that to India and sell the ice in India, for example, in Mumbai, where an ice house was erected on the beach to store the ice. And he made apparently a fortune doing that. So it's quite fascinating. So you have all kind of exhibition that shows the very strong ties that existed between India and the US. And we wanted to bring that to the attention of the public in Hyderabad. Today what we're doing is building on these historical ties. We want to talk about poetry and particularly women poets. And we have a Fulbrighter, which is an American researcher paid on a grant that is here in Hyderabad for 9 months. And she's researching 2 women poets that were courtesan in the 18th century at the Nizam court. And she wants to research their poetry and to make them more well known. So we're using her work as a springboard to talk about the importance of poetry, the importance of women poets, and also the place of women in society. As you know, the US is always very interested in women equality, in gender equality, and in promoting to stop gender-based violence and violence against women. So we're using this opportunity today to talk about those issues. Currently, the U.S. Consulate is working on 5 different projects to help stop gender-based violence. So I will finish maybe with one word from our Ambassador Verma in Delhi, and he says, he often speaks about women and the place of women in society, and he says, when women move forward, they bring the rest of society with them. Thank you.
Is it the first time you people are working on women's era in Hyderabad?
Oh no. On women's poetry?
Yeah.
On women's poetry, yes, I believe it's the first time. But on women's issue in general, of course, it's not the first time.
In Hyderabad.
In Hyderabad, yes. It's the first time we're bringing this exhibition in Hyderabad. Thank you very much. Thank you.
However famous they were when they were alive. But I think that Chanda's current obscurity has much more to do with the tension of her position as a woman poet, when there were very few women poets, and especially as a courtesan. Qasim's description of her life, as well as similar depictions in other literary histories, focuses on her as an unconventional but captivating figure, who was beautiful and charming, certainly, but also talented at masculine pursuits, such as horseback riding, archery, patronage, and even poetry. Or perhaps I should say especially poetry. It's quite clear that at least in her personal life, she was able to be much more independent than the average woman of her time, and she used that independence to pursue knowledge and culture in a way that was traditionally largely reserved for men. But the interest that she sparked in literary circles during her life may well have turned to discomfort in later generations, as reform-minded writers tried to distance themselves, and the Urdu canon in general, from association with courtesans, whose profession had come to be seen as decadent and immoral. And I think we see her being neglected in Urdu canon in later years, partially because of this discomfort. Looking in this way at Chanda's life, we see a woman who was politically and culturally evolved in the affairs of her time, in a way that few women of her era were able to be. Because of this, it's tempting to look at her life retrospectively as an early example of feminist activism. As she's slowly begun to be rediscovered, a number of her modern biographers have especially emphasized her generous donations to charity, as well as commenting on the fact that her former home in Nampally is now the site of a women's college. And in doing this, they've tried to reclaim her as a kind of activist figure. But while this is all valuable, I also think that in any balanced evaluation of her life, we also have to discuss the ways in which she had to accommodate herself to the environment that she found herself in order to be as successful and influential as she was. And this environment wasn't always very accommodating to women who were ambitious or creative or educated. It was beautiful, but I hope that everyone can appreciate the Urdu, and if you need slightly more explanation, I will also be providing that. So, without further ado, हमसे करे है यार बयां अपने चाका, हज़र है हम भी गर हो इरादा निभाका, अब्रू कमां को खींच के की उस तरफ नजर, तब से पड़ा है खटके में नवक निगाह का, शब को फिगा थी मेरी तेरी दर पर ए सनम, तू भी तो गोश ना हुआ नाला आका, ए यार बेखबर तुझे अब तक खबर नहीं, कब का गुजार हो गया कोचे में माँ का, चांदा के देखने को जो ख्वाहिश करे कोई, रखता हो वासिफ अपने में वो इज़ व जा का. Alright, so now, so in English that's roughly, my lover will admit his love for me only if I too am ready to carry out his desires. After, abru kamal ko kinch ke ki us taraf nazar, tab se para hai khatke mein navak nivaka. Pulling back the bow of my eyebrow, I looked in that direction, that is the direction of my beloved, but the arrow of my glance fell away in confusion. Zadna hua nala aka. Last night I was crying on your doorstep, O love. Didn't my lament and weeping strike your ears? ए यार बेखबर तुझे अब तक खबर नहीं, कब का गुजार हो गया कोचे में माँ का. Oh, thoughtless love, until now I've had no news of you. When will the moon pass through my alley? Chande ke देखने को जो ख्वाहिश करे कोई, रखते हो वासिफ अपने में वो इज़ व जा का. If anyone wants to see Chanda, they should be lofty and honorable or of high status. Alright, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about this ghazal. To begin with, we have Chanda proclaiming that her lover, or her beloved, is ready to admit his love for her. but only of course if she shows that she's truly ready to fulfill his desire. So then, despite her lover's apparent willingness to hear her out, and this is a continuous puzzle, so that they're meant to be read in sequence. Some puzzles are not continuous, so you read each share separately. Probably you all know that. I feel like I should say anyway. Alam tarhi nigaah se hai sarshar dekhna, mere taraf bhi tak to balayar dekhna. And this is roughly, oh, look how the world is drunk with your gaze, but look in my direction and then let's see what happens. Nadan se ek umr raha mujhko rabte ishq, dana se ab para hai sarokar dekhna. For an age I was bound in love to an innocent. Now look, I've fallen in with a sage. Gardish se tere chasham ki mudat se ho kharab, tis par kare hai mujhse ye iqrar dekhna. I've fallen ill because of your wandering eyes. Still give me this promise and then we'll see. Nasiya bas kare hai mana mujhko ishq se, aa jaye wo nazar to phir inkar dekhna. Counselor, it's useless to forbid me this love. If you caught sight of my beloved, you too would be disobedient. Chanda ko tumse chashm ye hai ya ali ki ho, khak najaf ko sarmaya absar dekhna. This is my favorite couplet in this ghazal, but she says, these eyes of Chanda are a gift from you, Ali. Look how the dust of Najaf, which is where he's buried, of course, has become the surma inset. Thank you very much for having me. I'm going to yield the microphone to the other members of the panel who are, in fact, much more qualified to be on this panel than I am. But I hope that I have managed to say something or other that was interesting to you and that you perhaps didn't know or hadn't thought about. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
For girls' education, and hats off to Mailaka, we bow before.
हुमायूं मिर्जा के भी सुन लीजिए ताकि पता चले कि उनके नजरिया कैसे थे। ये ऐसी खातून हैं कि 1938 में जब पहली बार जश्न इकबाल मनाया गया हैदराबाद में, तो पहली बार उन्होंने मजमे में आकर इकबाल पर तकरीर की थी। बहुत कुछ उनको सुनना पड़ा उसके लिए, लेकिन उन्होंने तकरीर की थी और उनके इकबाल से गहरे ताल्लुकात थे। खत किताबत हुआ करती थी, वो खतूत मुख्तलिफ किताबों में छप चुकी हैं। अब यहाँ हम शायरी के हवाले से देखते हैं कि वो क्या कहती हैं। हमको ये सोचना चाहिए कि ये जो शायरा है 1903-4 में लिख रही है, क्योंकि उनकी वफ़ात है 1956 के लगभग। तो 1900 से 1950 के दरमियान के मुआशरे को हमारे सामने रखना है। लोग दुनिया में हैं ऐसे जो करते हैं गुरूर, नशे हुस्न में सरशार हैं दौलत का सुरूर। ना तो दौलत ही तुम्हारी ये रहेगी लोगों, और न ये हुस्न रहेगा कभी मेरी सुन लो। नेकी दुनिया में करो क्योंकि रहेगी ये सदा, नेकी वो शय है कि करता है पसंद उसको खुदा। नेकी करने के तरीके मैं बताऊं तुमको, बात सुन लो ये मेरी कान लगाकर सुन लो। देखो लंगड़े को तो तुम हाथ में लकड़ी दे दो, देखो अंधे को तो तुम राह उसे बतलाओ। कोई हमसाया जो बीमार कभी हो ले जरा, ले खबर इसकी के खुश तुझसे हो खालिक तेरा। मुफलिसी से कोई नादार जो ढूंढे रोजी, कोशिश करके किसी तरह तू दिला दे रोजी। अपने हमसाये के लोगों के घरों पर जाओ, कौन किस चीज का मोहताज है सुनकर आओ। हो सके जितना तू कर लोगों पर एहसान अपना, जिक्र उसका न ज़बां पर कभी लाना असला। कोई ममनून अगर तुमको करे शुक्र करो, जीते जी उसका ना एहसान कभी तुम भूलो। गर शजर तुमको मिले धूप से मुरझाए हुए, उनको भी पानी दो खुशनू दिए खालिक के लिए। माने नेकी के नहीं ये के फकत पैसा दो, बल्कि पहलू में जरा दर्द भरा दिल रखो, बिलबिलाता हुआ अगर भूख में आए कुत्ता, उसके आगे भी जरा डाल दो कोई टुकड़ा। ज़मीं हमारी ये है वतन हमारा, तबरेज़ को भी छोड़ा, ईरान को भी छोड़ा, मुल्के दकन बना है अब तो वतन हमारा। हम 150 बरस से आकर यहाँ बसे हैं, ये है ज़मीं हमारी, चरखे कोहन हमारा। रखते हैं जिसकी उल्फत, गाते हैं जिसका नगमा, आगाए बंदा परवर शाहे दकन हमारा। इल्म से बेबहरा हैं महरूम इत्मीनान से, मोतखद हैं हम शगुफों के कहीं औहाम से, फलसफे से हम नहीं वाक़िफ़, एतमादे नफ्स खुद ज़ब्ती हमारा होशियार, मुर्दे से बदतर हैं दुनिया में नहीं जो बेहुनर हैं उनके।
And one of the women wrote, तलाक दिया तुमने जोरों कहर के साथ, लौटा तो जवानी में मेरे महर के साथ। Our girls are here, they would recite it better, but I'm reciting this poem of child marriage. तुम्हारे दिल को दुख होगा न खुलवा वो जुबां मेरी, बहुत दर्द है प्यारी जमीला दास्तां मेरी। इसे शादी कहूँ मैं हूँ, इसे शादी कहूँ हैरत में हूँ, या अपनी बर्बादी कि जिसने छीन ली मुझसे मेरी बचपन की आज़ादी। मेरे माँ बाप हैं अब क्या कहूँ इसके सिवा उनको, मेरे माँ बाप हैं अब क्या कहूँ इसके सिवा उनको, किया जो कुछ उन्होंने खैर खुश रखे खुदा उनको। खुदा जाने कि उन पर क्यों मैं कमबख्त ऐसी भारी थी, निकल जाऊँ मैं घर से क्यों उन्हें ये बेकरारी थी, कि झोंका भार में लगते जिगर को अपने हाथों से, खुशी क्या हो सोचूं तो ऐसी बारातों से। वो कहलाता है बूढ़ा जो हुआ 40 से ऊपर, मेरे वो हैं खुदा रखे अब 48 से ऊपर। वो कल फिर तीसरी कर लाएंगे, उनका ठिकाना क्या, दगा जो कर चुका हो एक से उसका भरोसा क्या।